If you knew the impact of your health decisions beforehand, would you choose differently? Today, we welcome a renowned chiropractor with more than 4 decades of experience. He's been the team chiropractor for both the San Francisco 49ers and the Giants, and has helped celebrity patients such as Tom Brady and Joe Montana manage their injuries and maintain wellness. He's also the author of a new book, and he's coming on to tell us about making conscious decisions for health that can lead to better mental, physical well being as you age. This is the story of To Health with You with Dr. Nick Athens. Dr. Athens, thank you so much for coming back on. This is your second time.
It is my second time. And so I had such a good time the first time. I wanted to come back.
Well, you wrote a book, since
Yeah, in the
then, which is
meantime, yeah.
great.
hmm
I love that. Why the title, To Health with You? What made you come up with that?
One thing after 42 years of practice, Casper, you learn you don't want to tell people what to do. You guide them to where you want them to go.
Yep.
And so I wanted it to be a book where I'm holding their hand. I'm taking it into the mindfulness room. I'm holding their hand into the flexibility room. I'm holding their hand into the high intensity interval training and the accountability room. I'm kind of holding their hand, showing them why they need to do this for aging and longevity. So I felt a good title was to kind of take the pun of the other term, health with you. And so kind of I'm guiding you to better health and to get people's, to perk them up to say when they see the book on newsstand or they see it out on Amazon, which it is now, is to say, well, okay, what's this about? And then you put a quarterback quote on there and you put a little heart on there to have it attractive and you have and talk about mind and body solutions. And pretty much that's how simple you have to keep it.
Well, let's be honest, Dr. Athens. It's not just a quarterback. We're talking about
Yeah,
Joe Montana on
that's
the
right.
cover here, I'm
Yeah.
reading, right? If
Yeah.
you're looking to take control of your health and transform your life, use this book as your ultimate playbook. Joe Montana, I mean, one
Yeah.
of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, debatable, if not the greatest. But you got your start working with the 49ers,
Yep.
where I loved reading that whole beginning part of it, of how you started, got into chiropractic, and then had these players in the 80s and 90s. You helped them win a number of championships back then, one of the greatest, dynasties in football ever. And but one of the things that really resonated with me was this fact that as much as you helped the players, the medical team for the 49ers still sort of dismissed you for a bit there.
Yeah, starting out, Casper, as a chiropractor, you come out of school and you graduate, and you say, okay, well, it's time to start a practice, right? The world owes me a practice. I educated myself. I took a loan out. I paid for my education, and now it's time for the world to give me a practice. No, that was a perception, fantasy. That was not reality. So in essence, you realize, okay, now have to learn to hunt and fish in the woods, pretty much, right? You have to kind of get good at it. You have to figure it out. And so one thing it taught me is to, instead of a physical callus, build a mental callus. And so as a
Mm.
result of that, you learn how to battle and you learn how to be in the trenches and you learn how to be in the foxhole in the street fight and learn how to battle. And you kind of figure, well, a healthcare provider shouldn't have to do that. He's got a degree on the wall. Well, in 42 years of practice, no one has ever asked me my GPA. They never asked me anything about my education. All they asked me was, hey, can you help my shoulder? Can you help my neck? Can you help my back? Can you help my health? And so I realized, just like sports, if you take sports and put it to life, it's all about performance. You're
Yes.
going to get, Yelp reviews. People are going to refer to you. They're not going to refer to you. So you got to be really good. You have to master your trade, and you can't be bored with mastery. You have to master fundamentals. If you
Mm.
master, I figured if I mastered my skill and I could be really, really great at the fundamentals of adjusting and teaching people lifestyle choices, I can give them better results, and people are looking for that. So through the athletes, it was great because they promoted it. And as a result of that, they promoted it, and then people said, "Well, Jesus, if Joe Montana's doing it, I don't need science behind it. I just Joe's doing it, or Tom Brady's doing it, right?" So,
Yeah.
and as a result of that, people get a chance to say, and well, he goes works on the team, and even though I was independent of the team, they thought I was a team doc. But with all the publicity they gave to the news media as a result of it, um, you're able to get all these referrals from that one Super Bowl story, which is in the book.
Mhm.
And then from all those people that came in, I was getting after the Super Bowl on the pregame show. As I said, it was getting 50 to 60 new patients a month. It was kind of, whoa, I need to kind of have other docs. I can't help all these people. But then you figure after a while, what am I learning from these people? What's bringing them in? I'm a last resort doctor. I'm profiting off a system here that says I'm a quack and I'm a pseudoscience. I'm not a real doctor. And how is this? They're all coming in, so I better perform and I better make plays and I better get them well and teach them. And if I taught them, then they would refer even more business. And I could kind of start proving a system that said I wasn't that great into, well, I challenge the system now and say, well, geez, are you as good as you're saying you are? I have to perform, and that's how I have to learn to hunt and fish in the woods. And you're kind of going to school, an employee in the system, and that's how you make your living. And all these patients are given to you. I had to earn these patients. And to earn the patients, it's a different level of performance than just going to work, working a shift and having the patient there for you. It's another level of performance. And I have to be locked in, I call it, locked in. When I go to the office every day, you have to kind of perform like an athlete on the court. And if you want, the reason Tiger Woods and the Steph Currys and, all these great athletes over time get, crowds to see them because they perform. They're performers on a regular basis and they're consistent with their performance. So why not do that as a healthcare professional? You could perform on a regular basis in the office, teach people those lifestyle choices, educate them, get them out of their discomfort and their pain as a last resort. Then you're going to get referrals. And now you're building this practice of your dreams that, starts escalating. And then you get so busy and you learn from so many people and you could write a book. So in essence, now I feel like I'm a channel of all this information of over 750,000 patient visits, and kind of now I gave a jigsaw puzzle to the world of what I learned from all these people that were coming in. And that's the whole premises of the book is, how can I change people's lives? I got the best text I got was not too long ago, a few weeks ago, from someone in Wisconsin and said, Dr. Athens, I gave your book to my mom and it changed her life. And it's great. You could put something out there that is that changed someone's life that we care about. So it touched me because it was like, hey, you know what? Now I could take all the information I've learned and share with other people and change lives on people I will never meet. And that's power. That's impact to me. That's making plays as an athlete, right? So that's the ultimate. And so my goal is constantly, and I'm 65 now, doing 42 years, I still have the mindset of, making plays and coming in the office and performing on a regular basis. So I take care of myself on a regular basis to do that.
Yeah, no, it's such a paradox in medicine that the people that get results outside of the conventional world are still labeled quacks and have so much skepticism about them because, they turn to this unscientific type of approach or whatever it is they say, but the results speak for themselves. And people see past that after a while because they're not getting results the other way. It should really be the other way where, medicine on a more conventional basis should be what you do, more of the integrative approach. And alternatively, you should then only use drugs and surgery. It should be the alternative to what you should start with, which is chiropractic, more energy medicine, lifestyle changes, a lot of these things you listed in the book. But we still live in a little bit of a reverse world with the sick care health system and not a real health care system that cares about health.
Mm-hmm.
You started the book, with a big section on the brain and hormones. Can you talk about that? Why that was so important as a kind of, starting point for all the other lessons and recommendations you give throughout the book?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the brain because that's how we create habits, and our habits determine our destiny and our future. So if we create good habits, we're going to have a better quality of life. We have bad habits, we have a worse quality of life. So what I find is the conscious and the subconscious brain. I talked about that, and the subconscious brain is our true health. It's the brain that adapts and has the survival brain that runs our true health.
Mhm.
So typically what happens if we're teaching that brain bad habits, it runs our life. It's like our autopilot brain. And if our autopilot brain is running our life in a bad way because the bad decisions we're making, that will expose itself over time. And time exposes our decisions. So you see what happens with time. Being in practice 42 years, you see what time does to the body. And when you're younger, you don't see time. So I'm kind of the future talking backwards, saying, okay, well, geez, if you could change this and do that, and these habits matter. And the subconscious brain that runs our body, if you could teach it better habits, then time will reward those decisions. Time will reward those decisions, and you can have a better quality of life. And I think that's changing now. I think younger generation, they're more proactive with their health, and
Hmm.
they're doing things for their health to prevent breakdowns rather than wait for the inferno to happen and then they do something about it. And that's how typically you're talking about the sick care system works. So there's no lifestyle changes. And the reason I wanted to show the mind was because um, in that subconscious brain, we have this stress and anxiety state, and we have this calm state, as we know, that runs our body. And I wanted to talk about that instead of taking stress away, people use these outside in coping mechanisms. And these outside in coping mechanisms, alcohol, sugar, recreational drugs, gambling, whatever it is, they're waiting for this dopamine hit. And they keep trying to use this outside in coping mechanism. That's why I showed scales. And instead of taking the outside in, we're building the craving system in the subconscious brain, and now we lose the tug of war. So if we lose the tug of war, now our subconscious brain owns us. And Horace was a philosopher. He said, if you don't rule your mind, it will rule you.
Hmm.
And what he meant by that was if you set up a bad craving system, you lose the tug of war and you can't even say no to yourself. And if you can't say no to yourself, how do you expect, how can you not be exposed to those decisions will be exposed over time? And then you're going to just take medications and your quality of life is going to be terrible. You can't move. You're going to get depression. You have all these ailments that they just throw products at. And they just throw products to slow the progression down the rabbit hole as time goes on, instead of trying to do lifestyle changes and proactive things that move the rabbit hole, getting out of the rabbit hole.
Hmm.
So in essence, that's how the society works. So I figured, man, if I could teach people how to have this young mind and this body that's young too, now you have more congruency, you have better quality, more fun, more activity. And a lot of it starts with the habits and teaching ourselves the habits. And we'll go into a little bit more how there's ways to do that that I taught in the book. But the only result is I taught how to add more calm. So instead of taking stress away, add calm to balance the scales. And if you add calming activities in your life, then your body, you can have more fun in your life because you're making better decisions inside. And that, again, those decisions will reward you with time.
Yeah, you talk about those addictions and the search for more dopamine hits.
Mhm.
When I was reading it, it brought up. I read a book, Dopamine Nation,
Mhm.
that really talked about how much of what we do today is based on that. Let's say a ping in your phone is like, oh, it releases a little bit of dopamine. You want more, and you're always on your phone searching and
Mhm.
more likes and other things. And of course, we use alcohol, drugs, all these other things that release dopamine, but then we go down, and have that, and it's a negative, unhealthy manner of doing it. In that book, though, they kind of gave these examples of people who addicts to drugs, the people with the biggest dopamine, needs, how they replaced it with other healthy things that release dopamine, like cold plunging, let's say, which I know you talked a bit and said it's healthy. Is that your supposition also, is that we need to replace the unhealthy with healthy dopamine hits, or do we need to regulate to a point where we're not searching for the dopamine hits constantly?
Very good question. So, look at the brain setting off. We're looking for the endorphins, the dopamine, the oxytocin, serotonin. We're looking for these hormones that kind of give us a great mood. We're all looking for that every day, right? So look at it like a dimmer switch in a room, right? A light switch or a music switch. And the higher the dopamine hit, the body gets used to that. One thing you realize, since the subconscious brain's duty is to adapt to whatever you're doing in your life. It has to adapt to survive. So if you're used to getting high dopamine hits, it wants high dopamine hits. So the best thing to do is kind of give it just dopamine hits so your body just gets used to that. And it takes about 4 to 5 weeks to make those habits happen, and the conscious brain will teach the subconscious brain. It usually takes about 4 to 5 weeks to change those habits. So if you do the exercising, you do the stretching, you do the mindfulness, you do weight training, you get out in nature, you listen to, our five senses protect us, our five senses calm us. So if you use your senses in a way it should, you talk about a lot of that on your Instagram, getting out in nature and walking and enjoying what life is out there for us. You're getting these dopamine hits, and instead of not to say you can't have the alcohol, not to say you can't, have sugar and desserts. It's just that, again, the more you do it, the more the subconscious brain gets used to it as part of your life. This is what we do now. We have dessert. We need more sugar. We need more gambling. We need more and then you get this addictive nature where, again, you're losing the tug of war to the craving system you built up in the subconscious brain. And that's where there's going to be painful results with time. And we'll talk about it a little later on the accountability chapter, which I talked about. It's hard to go through life by yourself to figure that out, because this conscious brain, which I talked about, doesn't really know the difference between fantasy, perception, and imagination.
That's
And
right.
that's why athletes have coaches. And athletes have coaches. Coaches manage the perception of the athlete. You can only imagine the chaos in pro sports without coaches. The athletes would be down by 40 points thinking they could still win the game. No, timeout, sit down. Coach, we're up by 12. Why did you call a timeout? Because you were up by 26 points and now you're up by 12 and you're going to lose the game. So the question is who manages perception? Who manages our perception? Well, if we do, we're not putting ourselves in a good situation. So we need realistic voices around us to really manage us, to keep us going in the right direction, to manage so we don't get overused with this craving system that wins in our brain. And I would say do these outside activities that are healthy activities, right? Stretching, laughter is great. News media, probably on a regular basis. If you watch it, you get through all, the brain gets used to that. And that's probably not good because they manage, they put out more stress and anxiety to get you riled up. And then as a result of that, that's not good for your health, which we talked about in that hurricane chapter, the calm chapter. And I said, do you mind if I kind of go into that a little bit now?
Surely. Yeah.
So, and I wanted to think of something that showed stress and anxiety and calm in one photo. And I thought of a Category 5 hurricane, because most people live in these outer band of the Category 5 hurricane and they become their normal. That's what they taught themselves. Unintentionally, but that's how they taught themselves. And now they go through this life in this high stress and anxiety situation, which is not good for our health. They want to get to a calmer state. They want to get to the eye of the storm, but they think they could get there, but it's a lot harder than they think it is. Their perception takes over. They think they can do it, and it's a lot harder. And when people are in pain, they're in this stress and anxiety world. And I see it when they come in, seeing all these thousands of people. What did I learn from them? Well, where they're in stress and anxiety, they talk more. They talk about the same thing. And I had to go to a counselor to learn to listen.
Mm.
And you say, listen, as a doctor? Well, yeah, because I knew I could help the person, but I had to acknowledge them. People want to be heard. I had to acknowledge, hey, neck and arm pain. Okay, right arm. Okay, all the way down. I would used to say, let's get you on the table. Let's get you on the table. Let's get you on the table. And people would keep talking about their same condition over and over again because they were the pain level was so high, they wanted to talk it out of themselves.
Mm.
So I went to the counselor and I said, hey, doc, people aren't hearing what I'm saying to them. I'm trying to get them on the table and they're not listening to me. And he said, I see the problem. You're not listening to them. I said, what do you mean? He says, well, people want to be heard. You have to acknowledge people are in the discomfort they're in, make sure they're heard, and they'll go on the table. I started doing that, and now it's more effortless to run a practice because, 2 ears, one mouth, it's better to listen, right? That's what they're there for. So become a good listener and you become more productive. So I've heightened my listening skills.
It's what every doctor should do, right? It's kind of
Right,
the humbleness of not, just giving information, it's taking it in, it's
right.
absorbing that information, and also that's part of the therapeutic process, is
Yes.
allowing someone to vent, allowing someone to get that out of them, which we know is part of the emotional pain gets stored in the back and other areas.
Yep.
And like you mentioned in that common stress section of the book, we deal with so much stress on a daily basis. Sometimes it's just perceived stress that we do upon ourselves, kind of, different levels, and see everything as a stressor. Other times it truly is, like you said, if you watch the news, it is all fear porn. It's made to kind of, be addictive in that sense of keeping you in a fearful state. What's going to happen next? Oh my God, it's the end of the world. And Yes, calm is a big portion of trying to balance it, but I wanted to get into your work and how that can help as well, because actual chiropractic, what you're doing is
Mhm.
also part of that equation to calm. Can you go talk about how the chiropractic work you do is part of that calming need to balance out everything?
Yeah. First of all, the reason you want to get to a calmer state is because you're less reactive with your decisions. You're making better decisions in the calm state than you are in the reactive state. So just if you look statistics, baseball managers look at statistics all day long for lefties versus the righty, and they look at statistics on a regular basis to win the game. So if we want to win the game of life, and you have to have better statistics with your decisions, and your stats will be better in that calmer state. Blood pressure is lower, sleep is better, breathing's better, everything's better. So, how do you how chiropractic care helps with that is by getting adjusted. You're in essence rebooting the nervous system. So it's kind of like getting a kink out of a hose. You're allowing flow. You're allowing the body that is just impinged, creating this chaotic, internal, stressful state to undo and flow more efficiently. And so a lot of patients would say, well, I don't know, is that good for me? Is that, can that help me? And I say in the book, there's different chiropractors do different things, but we're working with our hands. So there's good docs with their hands, and there's other ones. You just do your research on who would be a good referral source from your friends and family would know. But the malpractice for a chiropractor, I said in the book, is 1,500 a year. 30 years ago, I'm only $2,500 a year, and that's kind of a lot of people don't know that, and I wanted to share that in the book on a malpractice. So the chance of injury is way low according to, let's take it away from what the doctor says and what I say. Let's go to the source that would manage that and oversee that. And for something to be so low, that $2,500 a year, the real estate agents pay more to do real estate deals. So I guess, you look at that. Okay, so now let's look if it's safe. And then, so if you could safe and take someone out of pain, and I find that a lot of these people who are in bad moods and pain coming in, Casper, getting them out of pain and discomfort, they can reset, refocus, recalibrate, recharge to go forward again. So in essence, instead of saying, you need to remove your stress, you need to exercise, you need to get off sugar, it's no, it's like, okay, break the cycle for me, doc. Break my cycle that I'm going off. I can't move. My back's hurting, my neck, my knee, my ankle. I can't move to get out of this discomfort. What do I do? So then when you help them with this pain response they're in, then they could reset and say, doc, I went for a walk today. I went for a walk today for the first time in months. I feel a lot better. Great. So then let's start working on your diet now. You feel better. Let's start working on your stretching program. Let's have you start kind of going out in nature more. Let's getting out in the morning. Great idea, doc. So now you become the source of information. And doctor to me means teacher. Is the doctor teaching the patient like a coach should make an athlete better to me? Are doctors making people better? Teaching them lifestyle choices make them better. Joe Montana's, Michael Jordan's, the Barry Bonds, they made athletes around them better because they performed and had other athletes. They helped them with what they do and what they did, and they made them better. And as a result of that, my job is to, I tell patients all the time, I'm so happy you hurt yourself. And they said, why would you say that, doc? I said, because my job is to make you better. My job is to take your health to another level. My job is to make you better than when you were before, that you didn't even know you could experience. So if I can adjust patients, reboot the nervous system, get pressure off the nervous system, get them to move better, now they feel like doing, Casper, so many other things that can be healthy addictions in their life to move them out of the rabbit hole, which we talked about, instead of taking products to reduce them, and then they become a health statistic. And oh, Mary was a nice person, but unfortunately she passed on. Yeah, she's a health statistic. And Mary could have saved her life if she went the other route. And then we have all these statistics with no accountability. If I'm that bad in my practice, I'm out of business.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to perform every day, like I said. So you get used to performing, you bring people out of the rabbit hole, you break their pain cycle, you get them out of the stress and anxiety state, you teach them how to get to a calmer eye of the hurricane life. And as a result of that, you kind of like see these results. Like, I can't help everyone, but I'd say 98% of the people who come in the office are getting better. And I see up to like 60, 70 patients a day. And I wrote a book on seeing 60, 70 patients a day, which is crazy. I don't even know how I did that with 4 kids. We're older now, but I mean, still and working out. And so it's a lot of effort, but I wanted to share the story so much about, what I saw and share that experience. It's just, and I found like, I found so many answers when people came to see me. I found answers that they were looking for and that you could help them with and guide them to a better quality of life.
Yeah, and a lot of that guiding happens, of course, not just in your office, but outside. And that's what the book is about. It's
Right,
so much of the empowering details. And one of those pieces you mentioned a little bit before, but I want to get into is stretching and flexibility, which so many people overlook.
right.
We a lot of people know you go to the gym, you lift some weights, you break it down. And again, it's funny because people know, that pain the next day is a good thing. They're going
Mhm.
to grow from it. And that's
Right.
where you say that pain, you could help people grow from it too.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
it's also a good thing. But if you were to talk about, stretches and flexibility, what would be your recommendations for someone? I know I think you're big on doing it before you go to sleep, correct?
Yeah. I wanted, what I saw is people didn't stretch. They were hunched forward. They
Yep.
didn't work out. They didn't have muscle strength. And so I wanted to write a book and sprinkle chiropractic in the book, but make it a healthcare book. And I talk about hydration and in the book, and then I'll get into stretching. But the hydration portion, I saw a lot of dehydration injuries. People said, Doc, I just bent over to feed my dog. I bent over to brush my teeth. I bent over to tie my shoe. My back just locked up. I go, oh, geez, that's interesting. Dehydration, because in essence, you see a lot of people don't drink enough water. Their body's more susceptible to injury. So I started on this whole project by seeing, like, I saw a lot of contractors who came in, electricians, plumbers, um, tradespeople came in. They always had left hip and leg pain. I go, how come these people have left hip and knee pain? And a lot of people say, well, the way they bend, their old shoes. I get it, but a lot of them have high trucks. And when they get out of the truck, they pound the left leg out of the car. So I said, oh, okay, so their IT pan got tight. They kept jamming the hip and leg. So I said, when you get out of the car, swing both legs and then swing both legs in. And you see these things changing. So I could fix them up, but if they keep going back to the bad habit, they're not going to get the results. So I wanted to add more things to, now that they felt better, I wanted to add these other routines like weight training. Why would you want to kind of get your shoulders back? Because over time, our spine has these curves for a reason. And when we hunch forward, we become more like a shrimp, and our spine doesn't absorb shock when it's a shrimp. It absorbs shock when it has three curves: neck, mid back, low back. It's like a shock absorber, right? So if we can't get these three curves and we change them, we're on our phones all day, we're on our computers, we're just constantly rolled forward. Well, the body doesn't like that, and the subconscious brain will notice that and it will adapt. And it throws calcium at the site, and they call that arthritis.
Mm.
So now you have this arthritic spine that you can't get the time back. You get the time going forward, but when you're 8 years old, you can't say, oh, wow, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have been looking on my phone and computer like that, because so I want to get the time back. Sorry, you had a chance. 40 years ago, you should have happened. Someone should have taught you that. And if you don't learn that early, it's going to affect you when you get older. You can't move as much, and then you're frustrated because now you're in pain all the time. You're in this stress and anxiety state. You can't move. You get depressed, and this whole bad cycle happens. So flexibility is a big part of that, because as we age, not just our muscles contract, but our lymph system, our cardiovascular system, our lungs, and we can't get flow. We become like an LA traffic jam inside our body. And our body has to adapt to that. And as a result of this constriction, we're in a bad mood. And now you're looking for help and you're looking for ways out of it. And a lot of people just take medications, again, to slow the progression. They're not doing anything to go out of the rabbit hole. And I think that flexibility is a big part of it. I think training your heart and vascular system. I talk about high intensity interval training, longevity. We know weight training is important for longevity to keep your muscles moving. And, it's kind of like this Golden Gate Bridge, I said, kind of support the base. The cables are important to the bridge. The base are the cars. So keep your body strong so you can move. If you get movement, your body's a repair recovery machine. And I talk about it as an adaptive waste management treatment plan. So adaptive, well, nutrients in, takes the information, adapts to what you're feeding it and taking care of it. And whatever you're doing, it's going to kind of remove the waste products, and it's going to adapt as necessary. And over time, will expose the decisions you're making for this body. And like you said, we have the sick care crisis because people aren't being taught how to be healthy, because the business of sickness dominates the market now. Well, ironically, from the pandemic, you have this business of health that is being created.
Mm.
Um, and stretching is a big part of that. So I give all the yoga instructors credit, the Pilates instructors, the naturopath, the integrative medicine docs. all these people who are there in the system that never get kudos, and me being one of those alternative people where, I'm in the profession where it's the largest drugless health profession, but it doesn't really get looked at like it should. And my job is to kind of take that to the level and explain to people how chiropractic can help them, and then how doctors can be lifestyle coaches to teach people how to improve their quality of life again, especially with time.
Yeah,
Uh,
part of the equation I saw, that you were talking about throughout the book is, of course, there's this notion of movement throughout and exercise, and you
mhm,
talk about high intensity interval training. And I actually read this stat that 95% of people after the age of 35 will never sprint again.
mhm.
You, however, wrote in the book at 65,
Yep.
you're still doing 110-yard sprints, correct?
Yeah. 220s.
That's
Still go to the
impressive.
track. Yeah,
That
still
is
go to the track.
impressive.
So
You're definitely in that
everything, okay,
5%.
so put it this way. There's talkers and there's doers in life.
Yeah.
And people talk like they can do it. People don't care about my degrees. They want to know what I'm doing. What am I doing? I saw you sprinting, Doc. I saw you weight training. I saw you doing this. Great. I want to show you what you can do too. You can do this too. You don't have to do what I'm doing, but going to the gym and kind of strengthening your body would be a good idea, don't you think? Yeah, I just got to find the time. So you help them where they can find the time. And you just mentioned stretching. One of the best times to stretch is life compresses us all day. So I said in the book, maybe a great time to stretch would be right before you go to bed. And a
Mm.
way to change the habit, if you want to hydrate, put a water container in your desk. If you want to stretch, put a yoga mat and a foam roller next to your bed. And then your subconscious brain says, and your conscious decision making can say, wow, that's there for a reason. I put that there to start changing my habit. 4 to 5 weeks later, you're going to start stretching before you, as you're going to see it as just part of your life. So if you do these positive things, what's crazy, Casper, you could change your aging trajectory, and you can enjoy yourself as you age. And like I said, at 65, sprinting, I went in, I'm a Medicare patient now, right? I'm supposed to be immunocompromised. I'm supposed to have comorbidities. I'm supposed to be weakened. I'm supposed to have all these health ailments. Really? According to who? So uh, what's amazing is I've proven the system wrong for 42 years. Do I need another 30 years? I mean, how many more years do I need to show over and over again? And I put these people on Instagram and show them what what I see on a regular basis as a last resort doctor who's been in all these doctors. And these doctors said, well, you should be out of business. You're not a real doctor. Okay, well, I agree with you. If you were doing your job, I should be out of business. So my point being is I'm so used to being locked in, like I said, when I come into the office to give people results. That's all I know. And that's how I've learned and taught myself. And I guess I don't know if I could ever change that habit, which is good. My son's going to chiropractor school, so he'll be out in a year and a half. So that's good. I can move on. But in the meantime, till then, I still, it's not over yet. So my goal is to guide people to better health and give them ideas that maybe they never thought of that can improve their health. And breathing with the high intensity interval training, breathing in the nose, out the mouth, expands your lungs, helps blood flow to the brain with nitric oxide. And as a result of that, you can have a better immune system, less chance of comorbidities, better health, better energy, better hormonal system where you're getting more endorphins, the dopamine hit, and healthy addictions that you don't need outside in stimulation. You can get it from the inside out.
Yeah, I appreciate a doctor that can practice what they preach. There are few
Yeah,
out there, right? And
thank you.
another way you do that is through your sleep routine. You're
Mhm,
asleep by about 9:30 or so. You wrote
mhm.
4:30, you're up, seven
Yep.
to 8 hours of quality sleep. But so many people suffer from poor sleep. And it's not just poor sleep, it's poor positioning. They wake up with aches. They're waking in the middle of the night. You talk a bit about that, especially how it deals with the spine and different ways to sleep. Can you give some recommendations for people that do have aches? I found myself sometimes in different beds in different areas when I'm traveling, wake up with some hip pain and things like that. Just like I know a lot of people lower back pain or just others. What recommendations do you give that I know were in the book?
Good question on sleep. So a lot of people I find, why is that important? First of all, is because if you're contorted in a bad sleeping position, it pre-stresses your body. So for
Mm,
instance, a lot of people I find sleep like this, their hand under their face, and then they try to go out to their workout routine and do push-ups and planks. Well, their right arm's already kind of, in essence, pre-tightened. It's
mm,
pre-stressed. So now when you put stress on a pre-stressed area, you're going to get an injury. So in essence, that's why that's huge, is because people, you see, again, patterns. People, I find a lot of people sleeping on their stomach and their side stomach. No one taught them how to sleep correctly. So you put a body pillow in there where they're not allowed to go on their stomach, and you're teaching them in the middle of the night that the pill is there for a reason, to keep them from rolling over on their stomach. So it keep them on their side or on their back, and it keeps the three curves I said earlier about those three spinal curves in a shock absorbing position, not in a compromised position. So a lot of people sleep compromised, and over time that's going to have consequences. And if you can sleep more on your side or on your back, hands away from the face, and in the sleep chapter, we talked about TMJ. A lot of people get
Mhm.
TMJ, which is the most misdiagnosed condition I've seen in 42 years, because it could create a lot of mental health issues. And why I'll post again on Instagram, another, it happens so often. A lot of people are just like this, and they
Yeah.
twist their jaw, and that affects superficial temporal arteries, which affect oxygen flow. And I say in the book, excessive yawning means your brain's trying to get more oxygen to the brain. So that could be a TMJ. Not to say it happens to everyone, but I look at that regularly on people and how their scalp is and how tight that is. A lot of people breathe incorrectly at night. I recommend mouth tape in the chapter, maybe to get used to breathing through the nose more often, change your sleep angle, raise it to 30 degrees to get less resistance on the lungs, so you can get better airflow in. And then train your body a little bit at a time in little progressive steps. And then your body gets used to that new way of doing things. And I recommend sense, or stimulate the sense of smell, waves, oceans, raindrops. You could put apps to help calm you. Anything to help calm you sleep is great. I said the scalp massage. And stretching before bed puts you in the present moment, because the brain doesn't want to be in the present moment. It's always looking to protect you. So it wants to go to the future and the past, and the future and the past. So if you could teach people to be more in the present moment, where they could do present time activities to calm their brains, pickleball, golf, stretching, cooking, gardening, these factors, archery, weight training, running, it keeps the brain in this present moment. And stretching before bed, you'll say, oh, wow, this is really tight. Oh, and then crawl into bed after you do foam rolling and stretching, and go to sleep and good quality sleep. And if you do that, easier said than done. But if you add these other ways to improve your sleep that I mentioned in the book, it's and sleep posture is one of those. So you can get off your stomach, so sleep on your side or back. You'll notice a big difference with less aches and pains in the morning, and you'll notice better quality sleep where you're not as stiff and sore, and you're going to get up with a little more vibrancy, a little more energy, which hopefully you get outside, you go for a walk and start moving, as we know is all helpful for your health.
Yeah, no, there's so many recommendations in this book. That's why it's wonderful. And they are these kind of small implementable recommendations that anyone could do one at a time to optimizing their health in this Kaizen small win every day approach.
Right,
But you mentioned this in the last chapter of accountability. You can't do it alone.
right.
This is, we as humans are not solitary type beings that, thrive alone. And we do need someone to help us with accountability, whether that is a coach or people around you, community. Why was that important to kind of end that off with? Because a lot of people would just kind of stop after sleep, I believe, and call it a day on the book. But you made that a good final point. Why did you do that?
Good question. The reason I added accountability into the book, because you look at people and their habits and their statistics to see how moving forward and moving the path forward in their healthcare journey, can they get better statistics by themselves, or can they get better statistics with other people around them? Well, I put nature as an example, and I use a flock of geese. Geese
Hmm.
fly in a V formation for a reason. There's 40% less energy on their wings when they're in a V formation than rather flying alone. So nature has these principles. You look at nature, most animals are in packs, or they're with other animals, and they use that for their survival, to have their backs, to watch out for them. And you find these people who go to gyms and go to yoga classes and Tai Chi classes in the park and swim classes and hiking clubs. They're going to be better statistically going in the right direction, because we don't have good days every day. And since we don't have good days, what's going to get us out of that bad day? Well, we need that person, whether it be a healthcare coach or an accountability person that you go hiking with, or cycling with, or swimming with, or Tai Chi. And now that accountability is huge because, Casper, where you been? We were supposed to go to the gym today. I thought, where have you been? I thought we had this workout routine 3 days. Yeah, you're right. See, if people rely on their own brain, it's not going to be, his job is to protect you, and it's only going to agree with you what you say to it. It will always agree with you. So you need someone to manage that. Athletes have coaches for that. And if we don't have, and I talk about that in the book, about your conscious fantasy brain isn't as accurate as you think. You need realistic voices. So the accountability part is the realistic voices to help keep you on track, because we all get off track in life. And much like rehabilitation and anything you do in rehab, you have realistic voices to help guide you to the center to get you going in the right direction, like a reset or a recalibration. And the same thing, if you could do that proactively, you're going to have a lot less breakdowns with your life than if you do it reactively. And most people, if they learn that now, to look for, places to go, and all these other places I tell in the book, the yoga instructors, you might say, well, I'm overweight, I'm out of shape, they're going to notice me, everyone's going to look at me. No, everyone's in there working on themselves. They're trying to figure it out themselves. And the
Yeah.
yoga instructor will be so happy you're there just to make the change. The alternative practitioners, they're all out knowing you're grinding. They know you're trying to figure it out. They're there to help. And they're there to, train you and try to guide you on the weight training or the yoga or the flexibility or your spin classes. And they're trying to get you to get more out of yourself. And if you get more out of yourself on a regular basis, that's your new habit. That's what your brain knows because that's what you're teaching it. And now it's a normal part of your life, which is a good addiction that we talked about. And you could start having what's called proactive aging, not reactive aging. And I wanted to show a stock graph on that at the end of the book to show the angle of aging that you could take care of your body. And I try to use myself as an example where I practice what I preach to share with the world that you don't have to have these comorbidities. You don't have to
Hmm.
have these immunocompromises. I think I missed one day in 42 years of the office. And you know how I did? I sprained my ankle at 5:30 in the morning running. And I get exposed to all these people who come in and coughing and sneezing. And yeah, I get it. Not everyone's going to be around other people, but my immune system gets stronger. But I also take care of myself with sleep, which affects the immune system, with stretching and weight training. I try to keep my body inside so it could battle what gets thrown at it from the outside in. So I want to be more Teflon on the inside to absorb what life throws at me. And if I could do that and learn how to manage myself, and that's what I wanted to get out in the book, that, there's more in you than you think, and use other people around you to help you because you're going to talk yourself out of it a lot of times. And is that the best thing for you? Well, then that becomes your new habit because when you start talking yourself out of it a few times, then you get used to talking yourself out of it. Well, if you get accountability, now those people are talking you into it. And so the 3 words I recommend is just get there. Just
Oh,
just get there. Just get to the gym. Get to the Tai Chi class. Get to the swim. Get to the pool. Excuse me. Get to the yoga class, and you'll find the brain will be like a dimmer switch. Will go, oh, okay. You're supposed to. I guess we're supposed to stretch today. I guess we're supposed to do a HIIT class today. I guess so. Put yourself in the position to succeed, and your brain will change. I've never gone to a gym saying, you know what? I should have gone back to bed and slept. What am I even doing here? No, my brain kind of wakes up because I see all these other people working out. My brain lights up. You get your dopamine hit saying they're okay. And even if I start walking on the treadmill and watch everyone else, I'm doing nothing but walking. Pretty soon my brain's going to take this information and start saying, okay, well, I see Tom over there doing some bicep curls, or Mary or Sally doing a workout. Maybe I should start doing something here. I see them here every day. They're so consistent. I can't believe it. Let me do some things too for my health. So, you guide people, you put your body in position to change habits, you stay in a calmer state, you don't react to this, you make better decisions in the calmer state, less reactive. And if you do that with accountability, if you look at the blue zones, what are the blue zones about? They have long aging. What do you find? They're very calm, there's no stress, and they have accountability. They have other people around them guiding them, encouraging them, giving them, clapping for them. They're helping them out on bad days. So build up your accountability team. In essence, you're doing with the blue zones, in essence, a good diet with, great food choices. you're going in the right direction more than most people in America. How's that?
No, no. There's no greater ROI, I say, than healthy choices and healthy actions. Just, striving for health, that's going to give you the greatest ROI to be more productive, to do more things, live longer, be happier, all these things that, pay back dividends.
Right.
So, you need to focus on that. And
Mhm.
so thank you for writing this book and putting all this information on how to make those healthy choices. And
Yep.
thank you for being a trailblazer, which aren't just my words. That's Joe Montana on the back cover there. Calling
I,
you a trailblazer.
I
So
appreciate it. I appreciate that.
congratulations again on the
Yeah.
book. Where again can people pick this up or connect with you?
So to help with you, it's on Amazon, or we have a website now called tohealthwithyou.net. You could order it on the website. I'd be happy to send it out to you then. But it's on Amazon, and so far so good. Sold over 1,200 copies,
Nice.
which is great. And getting some good feedback on it that people are liking the read. It's not too overwhelming. You can read it on an airplane. It's easy information. And I didn't want to waste people time. I just want to give them, how to get from San Francisco to Chicago. Don't give me the sightseeing tours. Just show me how to get from San Francisco to Chicago on the best route. And I wanted to show people a route to have more of a blueprint formula for how to take care of your body as you continue to age with less breakdowns and more fun. That's pretty much what it's about.
Yeah. Well, you'll get to Chicago and you'll get to healthy quick following these. So
Yes.
thank you for the blueprint. Thank you for
Okay.
the book and all that you do. And it was great talking to you and hope to have you on again when you have your next book out, next
Okay.
venture. So
I
thank
love,
you,
well, I
Dr.
appreciate you
Athens.
doing that and interviewing me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.
And be sure to check out tohealthwithyou.net for the book. You could also find it on Amazon. And there's also AthensChiro.net for more information about Dr. Athens. Until next time, continue writing your own healing story.